Welcome back to another exciting installment of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion of Star Trek. I am actually Starfleet Boy, but I turnabout intrudered fathery, so we swapped bodies, and I'm actually in his body. But it's still like the same old Starfleet Boy. So that's why I look a little different. But I'm joined today by Earl Grey Trekkie, Robbie, and Trek Cat Ian. How are y'all doing?
Doing
I'm good.
well. I have to say, Starfleet Boy, you're looking better than I've seen you in a long, long time.
Oh, I thank you. Yeah, I really upgraded recently. No, actually, Starfleet Boy. If you've been keeping up with him, he is battling some terrible plague from the Orion sector, and we have doctors McCoy and Crusher and Bashir all working on a cure. He's doing better. I think he's gonna pull through, but he's unable to be here in person, so he'll be in the chat, hanging out with all of y'all in the audience that are watching live. What are we talking about today? It's the final episode of Season 1, Operation Annihilate! You have to yell it.
Yeah, it is. Operation Annihilate.
It has an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Also known as the one with the flying fried eggs that attack you.
Yeah.
And Mustache Kirk.
Mustache Kirk, yeah. And they obviously took his wig off as well because it was all slicked back. Yeah.
So we typically open these with someone doing a summary. Does anyone want to volunteer a summary?
Well, I did last week's summary. So
Okay.
I think it's... Go on, Robbie. It's very rarely I hear Robbie summary, so I'd like to see a Robbie summary on this one today.
The Enterprise crew, Kirk and Spock, go down to this planet where everyone is there's no one on the planet that they can see, and they're all in the buildings of the planet, and they go to investigate where they find these life forms that look a bit like scrambled eggs, and they have to stop these life forms from manipulating the people of this planet.
And how do they do that?
They use Spock.
Basically, they sting. They fly on it and they sting the people. So yeah, what it is these it's found out that these organisms, the flying fried eggs, as Father E would like to call them, are individual brain cells. They work as a team, and they control beings to create ships to get them from planet to planet. It makes these people go mad, and they do their bidding. Unfortunately, during this time, Spock gets stung and is taken over. And through that time, the crew of the Enterprise, namely McCoy and Spock, try to find a cure and how to destroy these beings, how to cure the people. Because obviously, before this has happened, Kirk has lost not only his brother, but his sister-in-law as well, and his nephew is seriously ill because of these creatures. They find that as when they get to the planet, there is a shuttle, a small spacecraft that is flying into the sun. They try and stop this person. They can't, but just before the ship burns up into the sun, the guy is free. He says, "I'm free," and then the ship burns up in the sun. From there, McCoy and Spock realise that it is not radiation, it's not heat, it's bright light that can kill the aliens. They have an experiment where they use bright light. I think it's 1 million candles they use, and it blinds Spock. And after that, they get they get results from a previous experiment, and they found that it actually had only been ultraviolet light instead of bright light. So Kirk is not only is he emotionally beat up because he's lost his brother and lost his sister-in-law, he's now feeling beat up because he thinks that he's lost his first officer as well because he's blind. They put out satellites and they use the ultraviolet light. It kills all this life form, and then right at the end of the show, Spock comes bold as brass onto the bridge, nothing wrong, and they find out that Vulcans have an inner eyelid, and Spock is fine. And right near the end, McCoy says to Kirk, "Don't let him say that I said he was the best first officer in the fleet." To which Spock turns around and says, "Thank you." And Kirk responds, "You was worried about his eyes, you forgot about his ears." So there you go.
I love that moment. Another example of TOS like ending on a little chuck laughy moment.
Yeah, a little bit of humour. They do. It's, as I said, I think the previous episode they didn't, because obviously the City on the Edge of Forever.
Very different.
Very different.
Yeah, this is very different from Let's Get the Hell Out of Here.
Absolutely, they have to. You can't keep having every episode on the low. They've won. They've saved the day. Spock's okay, so it has to be a high, and they've got to have a little bit of humour again. So, yeah, no, I think it's quite a good, well-rounded episode. I know the some of the effects are a bit naff, as you said, the flying fried eggs.
Yeah,
but
doesn't look great, but it's kind of fun to watch.
Oh yeah. It's you think you can see the fishing line trying to go round. You can imagine the guy on the fishing reel trying to go around like that.
Exactly.
Trying to hit Leonard Nimoy on the back, but yeah.
I think what this episode does well, though, is that it is pretty scary leading up to when they actually reveal what the aliens look like. They spend a lot of time kind of hyping it up, so you're already kind of worried about the characters. You're already kind of like nervous about them like walking around on this planet. And that idea of like this mysterious space madness. It's like moving through the galaxy in a straight line and going from planet to planet. It is kind of like a horrifying idea, and it's almost kind of like Lovecraftian type of like mysterious cosmic horror type. There's the idea of like space madness. So I think they do a good job building that stuff up before the reveal, and then all the examples they show us, like the people that attack them when they beam down, when it kills, as Jill in the chat pointed out, when it kills Kirk's sister-in-law when she's like trying to explain to them what's going on. Spock's struggle when it was like trying to take control of Spock, and he's feeling forced to take over the ship. That's crazy when he just like yanks Sulu out of that chair and throws him across the bridge.
I think that's above this side of Paradise. It's the one where you really get to see the strength of a Vulcan.
Yeah,
because it takes quite a few men to sort of pin him down, because he is throwing him about quite a bit.
I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but in the episode Mirror Mirror, we actually see kind of like a boss fight against the Mirror Universe Spock, where it takes like the whole team, the whole away team of like Kirk, McCoy, Scotty, and Uhura to fight Spock. TOS always remembers that like Vulcans are stronger than humans. The other Star Trek shows forget that sometimes.
Well, I think the only other time you sort of see it is 2009.
Right.
In the fight on the bridge between Kirk and Spock,
which was very much influenced by the
This Side of Paradise.
This Side of Paradise.
Yeah. I think those are one of the few times you actually get to see the strength of a Vulcan in comparison.
Yeah, they don't really do that with like Tuvok or T'Pol or anyone else.
No. But yeah, no, I think you're right though. I think also that you get the buzzing of the bees and all that stuff with the going back to the alien, the alien of the week type thing. It was it's like, I think with most horrors, the scariness is the build up to the monster or anything, and then it sort of loses a bit when you see it. I think the only time you don't get that is Alien. But I think for the most part, you tend to lose it when you do see the creature or the monster.
Yeah, yeah. The stories kind of have to like hook you in the build up to keep you invested through the later stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I didn't mind how the life forms looked. They did look a bit goofy, but I thought they kind of added to the charm.
Yeah, and everything else looks great in this episode. Like, it was cool to see them actually go to a location.
Mhm.
You know, season one, as I think we've mentioned before, it has the most on location shooting out of all of the original series. So
Yeah.
that was cool to see them walking around. I think was it someone in the chat mentioned the location.
Yeah. Yeah, there was somebody tweeted the location.
Redondo Beach
Yeah.
out in California. Yeah, but yeah, look at this thing laying on some fake grass. But it's straight up astroturf.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And this is the only time we mention that Kirk has a brother until Star Trek '09 as well. Well, even in
Yeah.
Star Trek '09, that was a deleted scene where you see like him talk to his brother as a kid.
Yeah, but you do see him because it's well, you don't realise it's him because of the until the deleted scene.
Right.
And they also put it in the book as well, the book version of the film. But he actually drives the car past George as he's driving away. The kid on the side of the road is his brother.
There's a lot of talk about if Kirk could possibly show up in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If they do that, I would be more interested in seeing his brother Sam,
Sam.
than
Yeah.
see James T. Kirk. And
Yeah.
he should still have they should just get Chris Pine with a mustache to play him.
Slick back hair and a mustache.
Yeah. That'd be
Yeah,
perfect.
I would be
Well-
interested to see Kirk's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the prime timeline George Kirk, who
Yeah.
didn't blow up on the Kelvin. He would still be around, I guess.
It would be, yeah, but it was in TOS. It was always that it was his dad was the reason why Jim actually joined Starfleet in the first place.
We're looking at a picture of Sam Kirk now, and they don't really linger on it in the episode, just as like a quick glimpse.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that it was actually Shatner for a long time until like I read it in a book somewhere, because it is so brief that you see it. But yeah, obviously here, if you look at the freeze frame, you can tell it's him.
oh, they've just saying Sub Commander Tells actually said that Sam is mentioned in What Little Girls Are Made Of a few episodes earlier.
Oh yeah, that's true. And we also get the nephew Peter, and I never thought of this before, but I wonder if later when Kirk actually meets his son in the movies, when he's reunited with Carol Marcus and actually gets to like see his boy. I wonder if Peter was ever like, oh, I have a cousin, I should go meet him and hang out with him. Oh no, he got stabbed by Klingons. Oh well.
You can imagine this, but he says, "Oh, I've got a cousin. Oh no, he's dead."
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one who played Peter, that wasn't his first episode, was it? I think he was actually in Miri.
Yeah, he looks like one of the kids
Yeah, he was sort of Bam Bam.
in that show. Yeah,
With
yeah, he's the Bam Bam. Gonna
Bam Bam
Bam Bam Mr. Lovey Dovey.
It's it, Bam Bam, Mr. Lovey Dovey. Yeah, and if I remember rightly, I can't remember if it's him. If it is him, he was if it is him, I think he was the one who invented that really big musical instrument that Jerry Goldsmith used for the motion picture. You know that really
The V'ger sound thing.
The V'ger sound thing. I
Yeah.
think it's actually the one who played Peter Kirk was him as well.
That is insane. Wow.
Yeah, I think I saw it somewhere. It is one of the ones who played the kids in TOS, but I swear it was the one who played Peter Kirk.
Yeah, and then like 12 years later, he has his instrument in a Star Trek movie.
Yeah, yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, I probably get it wrong, but no. But
So Starfleet Boy is
apparently
telling us
there is a
Craig
deleted scene
Huxley
where it,
is the name of that actor.
very, yeah, there's a deleted scene where you do see Pete in a mini Starfleet uniform because he gets cured and everything else. So you see him with Jim on the bridge of the Enterprise.
You see who? You cut out a little bit there.
Peter, yeah, you actually see Peter in a mini TOS uniform with Kirk on the bridge of the Enterprise. Is a deleted scene.
They have kid-sized uniforms.
I just came on to say that the instrument is called a blaster beam. That
Blaster
Craig,
beam.
yeah, that Craig.
Okay.
It goes dom, ba-da-dom,
That sounds like
Oh,
a weapon that like a transformer would use. Like, I'm gonna hit you Decepticons with my blaster beam or something like that, like from a cartoon. Cool, blaster beam. I want to learn to play that instrument.
Yeah, I've noticed with Stohel's voice, he could actually. It's the only time he could probably do that sound with his voice being the way it is at the moment. Bless him. Oh well, there you go. He wasn't in Miri, but he was in the Chi Jun Chen lead.
Oh, Sub Commander
Thanks,
Tall has the information.
He does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the one where they go hail, hail, fire and snow, friendly angel? Is that one?
Yes. Possibly the worst episode in all of Star Trek by a lot of people's rankings. It's not a good one, but it's kind of fun to watch with a.
No.
I have a good story about that episode whenever we get to it. It's in season 3, so it's gonna be a little bit. But hey, we start season 2 next week, I guess.
It is.
Yeah.
This was the last episode of season 1, which I was
sorry.
to,
What? One more interruption. We have a tradition of doing like a whole season recap, and then we'll start the next season. So next week is the season recap. I better get off the show.
Yeah.
It's a season recap next week.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I guess that'll be fun to reflect on the whole, not just the first season of the original series, but the first season of Star Trek ever.
Star Trek.
Like,
Yeah.
they had no idea what the hell they were doing. This is like the first time anyone had done this, so
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yes. I was saying to Robbie earlier before we came on. I still think it's the first season of Star Trek is probably one of the strongest first seasons of any Star Trek.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think this is the best.
Yeah. I think Robbie was saying that I think it was DS9 you said was.
I said I think Deep Space Nine, TOS, and Lower Decks are the best, all the best first seasons in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
And the animated series has a good season 1, but that's kind of like TOS season 4, really.
Yeah,
That's kind of
that
how I
was
think
good.
about it.
Yeah, TAS was meant to be the continuation of the 5-year mission. Yeah.
Captain RGD in the chat says, if only TNG or Voyager had a sequel to this episode, The Creatures That Attack Spock. You know, that would have actually been cool if they followed up something like this in Voyager. Like, if these life forms had made it to the Delta Quadrant. Or maybe they originated in the Delta Quadrant.
Originated from the Delta Quadrant. Yeah, that would have been pretty cool to find out.
Or what if, like, instead of species 8472, like, battling the Borg, what if it was, like, these things? Like, they're both trying to, like, assimilate planets, and like, they like, no, this is, like, my turf, and they get, like, in a war against each other.
Mm.
Like, could these things, like, take over a Borg, or could the Borg assimilate one of these little fly-in things? Like, how would that work? That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It would be... I think sooner or later they would be able to work out how to defend themselves, and you would have thought that obviously the mechanical side of the Borg would help mask the pain or whatever that these things were trying to inflict to control the biological side.
Yeah, this is what they do to you, and they take over, and they make you go in rage attack mode.
Yeah.
Murderers! Killers!
That sounds like McCoy from
from last
Assassins!
week, City on the Edge.
Get off this planet, save yourself.
PJ, how are you doing today? What did you think of this episode, Operation Annihilate?
Pretty simple episode. It's just pretty monster of the week. All that happens, they discover some things. Kirk's brother gets killed. He doesn't really react much. I mean, he's emotional throughout the episode, but it's like really underplayed for the fact that his brother just died and his nephews and his nephew's mother and the nephew is in danger. I don't really buy Kirk's grief, but it's a fun episode. I like everything that they do with Spock.
He seems more worried about Spock being blind than he does about his brother being dead, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's way more emotional about that. It's like, okay. But I found that part unnecessary, accidentally blinding Spock toward the end of that episode was just like, this is just silly, dramatic stuff that means nothing.
It drags a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of that. Like, I almost feel like, speaking of the animated series, this one might work better in like that 23-minute format, because you'd make this like a little bit more fast pace, and I think that might have enhanced it a little bit.
Yeah, basically all that happens, they find they find the path of these creatures in the straight line that they're going, and then leads them to this planet. They find out their cells connected to a larger organism. They figure, oh, light is the way. Accidentally blind Spock. Oh yeah, we can use a different kind of light. They use the different kind of light. Episode's over.
and it's
not a bad episode though.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
But it's so often that like Spock's Vulcan anatomy is the solution or part of the solution. Like so often he's like immune to whatever's going on, or he's less affected by it.
I like that they're pointing out like the Vulcan in him whenever they can. It's like, yeah, these guys are tougher than what you think. Like the fact that he's like, oh yeah, it was only temporary blindness. I forgot about my inner eyelids because of our Vulcan son. It's like, you cheeky bastard.
Oh yeah, and I can also like hear what you're saying over there. I'm just like so superior Vulcan man.
You were so concerned about his Vulcan eyes, you forgot about his Vulcan ears.
It is. Yeah.
That's a great line though at the end. Love that.
I think you're right. I think you could have easily, even on the TOS episode, you could have easily knocked a good 10 minutes out of it, easily.
I don't think the pacing was great.
Do to you, and they
It's like McCoy.
For the fact
Whoa.
blinding Spock.
Whoa.
Okay, that was a temporal anomaly that we passed through. We're kind of like reliving our earlier part of the conversation.
Everybody just froze for a second. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. My computer's getting old now. It's like really like it needs to be replaced. It's like bugging out on me.
What were you saying, Robbie?
I don't think the pacing is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back and watch it in at heightened speed they have on Netflix.
You can do that on Netflix?
Yeah, you can go 1.5 speed through the episode.
Okay.
It's not like too fast, but they're talking really like everything's it plays out like an animated series episode in terms of time, because you keep going from one thing to another a little quicker, because when they cut to a shot of like two people in a room before somebody enters, it's like 2 or 3 seconds. They don't do that nowadays. They can't afford any kind of like lingering shots or just slow pace, but that's just the way it was back then. That's TOS for you. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of episodes you could have shortened.
Yeah, I think 60s TV is a lot different to the way it is now. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, people had watched a lot less TV back then, so I think they were more concerned with like how do we convey this idea clearly. And
I watched a few episodes of the later seasons of Mission Impossible with Leonard Nimoy, like the first episode he was in. And I was surprised that like the pacing of that show is pretty quick. Like they keep jumping from one thing to another. It's like it doesn't really slow down at any point. I mean, they do have conversations and stuff, but it's always like it just keeps going. I'm gonna keep watching the show with. I only wanted to watch it because Leonard Nimoy was in the fourth season, I think it is. But yeah.
Yeah, you really see him flex his acting muscles because he plays a guy in that show who is like a really good actor and can go undercover as all these different personalities. So you see Nimoy do a bunch of different stuff, and after a while they kind of just start using like the same things over and over again, and he gets bored of the show and wants to quit. But for a while there, it was really really cool to see Nimoy do a bunch of different stuff.
Didn't he do a couple of years on Mission Impossible? So was he on it for a couple of years, or was it just the one season?
I think he was on there for 2 seasons.
2, yeah.
It might have been more than that actually, but I think at least 2.
Yeah, I watched. I watched what I said last week because obviously it was the anniversary of his death. I watched Remembering Leonard Nimoy. That's a good. It's a good documentary to watch if you've not seen it before.
I need to see that because I have not watched it, but I remember you mentioning it last week. But speaking of Nimoy, this episode it has some good Spock stuff, and I think it has like good like Kirk, Spock, McCoy stuff. I love that trinity of the 3 of them, and I don't know at what point it was during season 1. Maybe we can figure it out next week during the season 1 recap. But yeah, by the time you get to this latter half of season 1, they really know how to write those 3 characters, and they expand on Dr. McCoy in season 2. They make him in every episode. The only guys that are in every single episode of season 1 are Kirk and Spock, and then starting season 2 they add McCoy to that, and then season 3 they add Scotty to that.
Yeah, because I think isn't it? I think beginning of season 2, I think that's where George Takei was filming Green Berets.
Right. Yeah. So he's gone a lot in season 2, but they add Walter, and we get Chekhov.
Yeah, with the Davy Jones wig.
Yep. Which is I'm watching Babylon 5 now for like the 3rd time, but my girlfriend is watching it for the first time, and we just saw Walter Koenig appear on B5 a few days ago, and she was like, "Oh, that's so cool! It's Chekhov." So she was really excited to see him on that show, playing a very different type of character. He's a bit of a bad guy over there, so it's kind of exciting to see him do something different.
Yeah.
I just finished season 1 of Babylon 5.
Cool. We need to get Starfleet Boy to finish watching it, and then I don't know who else has seen it, but I kind of want to do. Judd, if you're still in the audience, I know you were asking for some B5 coverage. I kind of want to do like a season by season B5 chat, if anyone's interested in that.
I think I watched it. I used to watch it on and off when it first came out in this country, but I don't think I've ever watched all of it. So maybe it'd be worth a rewatch.
Yeah, I didn't really appreciate it till I actually like sat down and like watched the entire first season, like beginning to end, and I was like, oh, now that I can see like all the episodes together, like I start to get what this show is about, and it made me really like the show after I went and started binging it when the DVDs started coming out, like in 2002 or 3. But anyways, enough about B5. People want to hear us talk about Star Trek, I think.
Yeah.
We have a question.
I think I would have had more in the episode. Maybe we'd find out more about the life forms, or find out about their origins or motivations more. Just to stretch it out. Not to stretch it out, but to make it drag a bit less.
What about you, PJ? What would you change in this episode?
I would just do more creature stuff. I mean, when they do the location filming, maybe they could have eaten up some time, like going around that location, because I don't know where it is, but it looks futuristic for the time, and it's always great to see them not on some weird set that you can tell is just not real at all. I don't know. I wouldn't change much. It's just if I had the option, I would make it an animated episode, part of the animated series, and cut it down, or I don't know, add another element to the thing that I have no idea. I really don't.
It needed another like exciting twist, like I think in the 3rd act.
I think that's why they do the whole Spock blind thing, because they're like, well, yeah,
Right.
we need something else, and they're like, let's do this, and it doesn't quite work, but it kind of pays off with the line at the end that McCoy says about don't tell him I said he was the best first officer, and Spock's like, well, thank you, and then Kirk's like, yeah, that's a great payoff, I guess. So I don't know.
Like, what if when they start like sending out those probes, which is cool in the remaster when it shows them like seeding those things in orbit around the planet to do the UV light. But what if like when they start doing that, the aliens figure out what they're doing, and so they start like kamikazing other ships into the Enterprise, or like all of the fried eggs like merge together like this big like egg monster, and it's trying to like attack the ship or like something like that. I know it would have been very hard to do
Yeah.
in the original series. The animated series could have done it though, but maybe something like that just to excite it, because normally the original series does have like these very like dramatic like ticking clocks, like oh no, like the danger is here, the stakes are high, I have to do this right now, and this was kind of missing some of that.
It is pretty silly, though, because Kirk's complaining. It's like, we have 15 science labs, or whatever he says. I can't remember the exact number. We have all these resources. We can't figure these things out. Oh, yeah, light. It's like, yeah, wouldn't that be, like, one of the basic things you would do? But, you know.
But it was Kirk who actually figured it out. It was light as well. Because wasn't he in these? They're in these quarters or something, and he's just pressing that button, and he went, light. You've done radiation. You've done heat. It's light. And then McCoy goes, yeah, okay. You've out-scienced us. You've Janewayed us. You've done it.
When I first saw this episode, I was for sure thought he was going to say, oh, we got to freeze it. That's the solution. We freeze it now, you know. But yeah, it worked out, I guess. But I like the fact that they acknowledge that the Enterprise has all this shit on the ship, like, you know, science stuff and satellites that they can... all this technology that you never see in the show because they never had the budget to really show it. And even in the remaster, you get the brief glimpse of like the satellite moving in like in kind of a nice motion that wasn't what it looked like originally. But if you had more time to see them forming and like see the light coming from them and stuff, would have been more exciting. But then again, you're going into a territory where you're literally altering the episode then. But yeah, I like that they acknowledge things like they have a bunch of labs on the ship and they have all this technology that you never see. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't change it so much as speed it up on Netflix when I watch it. It's better that way.
Yeah. There's a comment here from Sub Commander Tao. He said, if I had to change anything, I would have given that guy a bigger wrench.
Assassins! Murderers, killers, redundancy.
Yeah.
I think the episode wasn't too long. There just wasn't much going on in the episode.
I actually quite like that Nimoy does those little flinches to show that he's in pain or he's trying to conquer the pain. You just see when he's there and he's it's like, I'm all right. There's no side effects, honestly, type thing. But yeah, I did quite like. He was allowed to act a little bit as opposed to just being the non-emotional science machine, as it were.
I really like the practicality of the brain cell things, the fried eggs as you call them. I think like they look silly now, and you can see like there's on strings and stuff. But it's just cool to see a practical effect like that in a Trek show, even if it's old school, just showing like a dangerous alien creature. And it's not like the original series didn't show a lot of that, but I remember as a kid like wanting to see more alien stuff and creature stuff in the show when I watched it originally. And it's probably why I didn't quite mind this episode when I first watched it, because like the one with the rock monster, Devil in the Dark, like I liked episodes like that. Anything that had to do with an elaborate makeup effect or some kind of creature effect, I really was drawn to.
Yeah.
Even though it looks silly now when I'm older, I'm like, this looks fake as shit. It's still kind of cool.
Well, you know, the Gorn. I mean, the Gorn, I guess, is a cool design. Does it look super realistic? No, but it's fun to see them, try that type of stuff.
Yeah.
The Gorn.
It shows a level of imagination.
I think the Gorn looked quite terrible in Enterprise.
Yeah, that one doesn't look
Yeah.
realistic either.
Yeah, they've never really sort of mastered the Gorn, I don't think.
Maybe one day. That's a tricky
Maybe.
one to do because they can't do Gorn on Strange New Worlds because that's supposed to be first contact in the original series. They did do a Gorn wedding in Lower Decks though.
They did do a Gorn wedding, yeah. They did, yeah. Actually, I was just thinking, just because I showed a few pictures up, I was looking at it, and there's one thing that sort of two things that got me was, why was Uhura wearing a phaser belt thing all the way through the episode on the bridge? You notice she's wearing a belt all the way through.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and secondly was, I think Kirk actually gets more annoyed at Uhura for not being able to contact him and he got more emotional there than he did when his brother died.
Yeah, a little
That's
like
right.
a misdirected anger at
Yeah.
Uhura. I thought that was very uncalled for and kind of shitty at Kirk. He's being a bad boss in that moment. But
Kirk is a
Yeah.
bit weird in this episode altogether. It's Spock is really the highlight, and McCoy too. But
well, Jill in the audience says, "I was deeply affected by Spock's managing of his pain. I think of cancer patients continuing to function in terrible pain, and always think of Spock." Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely something to be said about people who have to endure some of that stuff.
you got to think of like Leonard Nimoy as an actor at that time, playing this character that's pretty unique at the time, like nothing like it, where he's constantly given the challenge of facing some kind of pain and trying to resist it, and it's always about like, I'm Vulcan, I'm tough. And I like when they reinforce that like Vulcans, yes, they suppress their emotions and they try to be pacifists as much as they can and whatever, but don't mess with them. Like they're to be feared. And Spock, I like when they give you reason to kind of fear Spock when he's in certain situations, like when he's fighting off the guards and shit. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to take him on. I think they go overboard with the J.J. Abrams films where he's like punching Khan in the face like 50 times. Like, okay, it's a little too much. And even Uhura's like, Spock, you're insane.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that was a different take on Spock, who had
Yeah,
lost
really, it
his.
wasn't- Lost
He saw his
shit.
mom die.
Lost his shit a little too much.
Yeah.
This is the best Gorn they've ever done. It's like, I think it's perfect. You shouldn't CG it or change it at all.
I think the Gorn in Lorca's room on Discovery, that was just like the skeleton. I actually thought it looked pretty good because they made the skull look like that Gorn. Like,
They did, yeah.
maybe almost too much like it. Like a human skull doesn't look like the exact same shape as like a human head. And, we have like a nose and ears and lips and stuff. They're like added on. But that skull is like the exact same shape. Like there is no mistaking it. It was a Gorn skeleton.
They could easily have a Gorn character show up in Picard season 2 for like 2 minutes, have a CG deal where it's like a person in a suit, but the head is CG. You do a combination kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
where
or
there was
you
supposed
could
to
do
be one?
animatronics, maybe. I don't know.
Where they wanted to do a Gorn? It was actually Gorn written into the script, and then they cut it out for budget purposes. But it was the Riker and Troy wedding in Star Trek Nemesis.
Nemesis, okay. Did not know that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that at all. There you go.
I don't know if he was on the bride's side or the groom's side, but he was supposed to be there.
Yeah. So where do you rate the monster of the week in this episode?
I mean, it doesn't compare to some of the other stuff we've seen in season 1, like the Gorn or the Horta. I don't know. What other monsters of the week? We have the Salt Vampire.
Actually, you said about the sort of vampire. I was in a chat room, and somebody said if they were to reimagine TOS, and somebody said, "Oh, Madonna could play the salt vampire."
Wow. Yeah, here's that deleted scene, Ian, of the kid and the Kirk shirt.
Yeah, Peter Kirk.
I guess he's like an ensign. There's like he's a lieutenant.
It's a lieutenant there. It's
Yeah.
a Lieutenant Kirk.
I guess there's like small creatures that might be in Starfleet, like that Kelvin universe dude, Keenzer. Like
Yeah,
maybe
Kinzer.
they have small uniforms for like the small species.
They could have just instantly replicated it.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily see replicators in TOS, do you?
Not a
they just have
replicator. There's
the
got to be
food
some
slots.
kind of device to instantly make clothes at that
Yeah.
point, you know.
When
Yeah.
in Discovery they had the synthesizer,
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, the synthesizer.
which appears to be the same thing, the same thing as a replicator, but they call it
Yeah.
a synthesizer.
Synthesizer. Yeah, I think with this one, I think like you said earlier, I think the build up for the aliens was bigger than the payoff on it.
Yeah, because
I
they
think-
show that these aliens are intelligent. Like they're going into the mind of that woman and like suppressing her thoughts by inflicting pain, and so like there's some kind of intelligence there, and that's not fully explored.
No,
Like it builds up, and then it's like, okay, we burn them, and that's it.
Star Trek normally gives the bad guys kind of an interesting motivation. You know, you do things like you don't expect, like the Gorn and the Horta. They're actually kind of sympathetic characters after we get to know them. But here, with these aliens, does it ever explain their motivation? Like, why are they conquering space? Why are they making these people build them ships so they can go to more and more planets? Like, what is that? Just like their motive is they just want to spread and infect like a parasite? It's kind of two-dimensional for Star Trek.
yeah, they don't really say. I think that's probably the bits that you could have probably added where they could have spoken to some of the people on the planet that had been infected and try and find out, because obviously they were trying to say get out, save yourselves, but they shot with the phasers, and then you could have had it that they were questioning them, that you could have found out a bit more why they're doing what they're doing, but it doesn't really. It becomes it gets pushed to the background. After you see them, that's it. You don't really know. All it is a case of we've got to kill them now, and that's it.
Jill in the chat was asking if that was a deleted scene with Peter on the bridge, and yes, it was. We were
It
talking
was,
about that
yeah.
earlier. Sub-Commander
Well,
Tao has the answer.
I mean, that's another thing. It's it's Kirk's nephew. He's now an orphan, so he's now really the only family he's got, but maybe Kirk's parents, Jim's parents. But what happens to Peter? They just fly off it back into space.
Never mentioned again.
Never
This
mentioned
episode's
again.
kind of forgotten, isn't it? And another
Yeah.
thing they forget, which has always bothered me, in Star Trek V, when Kirk, I know there's bigger problems with this movie, but hear me out. Star Trek V, when Kirk, McCoy, and Spock are hanging out at the end of the ship, not before they go back camping, but right before that, when they're still on the Enterprise, returning from the center of the galaxy, and Spock is kind of contemplating like the loss of his brother, and Kirk tells Spock, I lost a brother one time, but I got him back, and that makes it sound like the only brother Kirk lost is Spock, but it's like, no, like you actually did lose your actual factual brother. You're talking like you don't remember.
I think sorry.
That's I got Robbie. Go.
I think my favourite monster of the week for TOS, I can't remember the episode. The monster and the creature in the mining facility.
Devil
in the dark.
Yeah, that episode.
Yeah, that's the Horta.
The water. Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah, Nimoy does a lot of pain. He does it in that episode. He does it here. He did it in This Side of Paradise when he first gets hit with the spores. She's like, "It's supposed to make you feel good." He's like, "No, it's pain." It's like everything's pain with this dude.
It is. Yeah. It is. Oh dear.
I love that episode where he gets mad at Nurse Chapel. She's like bringing food to him. Yeah, amok time. He's
The next one we're doing
He's freaking
well,
out. Yeah, that's a great one.
Well,
after the recap.
After the season recap, that will be the next one. That will be season 2, episode 1.
That's a really good one.
So it looks like Tohal's trying to tee us up. So it's closing thoughts and ratings. So, what did you guys think? What were your overall thoughts of the episode?
I think we all agree that it's pretty solid, but not great. It doesn't live up, especially coming off of City on the Edge of Forever last week. It's a solid outing, but it's not one of the true highlights of season 1.
Yeah, I think you I think you've hit the pinnacle with the City of the Edge of Forever, and anything you brought up after that was always going to be a little bit of a downward spiral a bit. But yeah,
A tough act to follow.
It is a tough act to follow. But yeah, it's a good episode. It's not a great episode, but it's a good episode.
I think the episode could have been a lot better if it just had more going on and it was a bit more layered. I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Murderers! Killers! Assassins! Okay, yeah, it is a decent episode. I wouldn't put it in the category of like the undesirable TOS episodes like a Turnabout Intruder or anything like that. But yeah, it's okay. I give it a 7. Are you doing ratings now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and rate it.
I'm never entire. I'm not like I don't mean to sound like TOS is boring, but it is one of the episodes where I do get bored from time to time. And like say episodes like City on the Edge of Forever don't do that at all, or even like the next one is like I'm engaged. Some episodes are just engaging throughout. And yes, this meanders a bit, but I do appreciate the creatures and the whole thing with Spock and anything to do with Spock showing his Vulcan cojones. I appreciate.
Yeah, I think even with this one, this is still better than a lot of the episodes in season 3.
Oh yeah. When you guys get to season 3, it's going to be a hell of a lot of complaining, I think.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that so many Star Trek shows get better the longer they go. And TOS has 2 great seasons and then actually goes out on a weak 3rd season. But then it'll get better again when we do the animated series and get into those episodes.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like a dip, and then we'll rise back. So it's gonna we'll go deep into the valley for season 3, but then we'll rise out of it, like the phoenix rising from the ashes of World War III to welcome in the Vulcans and the foundation of the Federation.
Absolutely. I think for me, I'll give it a 7.5 UV satellites. I'll give it 7.5 UV satellites.
Okay, so we have a 6.5, or no, we have a 6 with Robbie, a 7 with PJ, and then a 7.5 with Ian. I'm gonna meet in the middle and also do a 7. So it averages out to a 7.
Averages a 7. Yeah.
7 fried eggs out of 10. It's a big breakfast.
It is. Oh, there you go. Starfleet Boy's giving it a solid 7.
Okay. Well, I think it's clear where the team lands on that one.
I think so.
If you're in the chat, you should let us know where you rank it. And if you're watching this later, you should also comment and let us know. And you should return next week when Starfleet Boy will hopefully be recovered and won't be blind from his treatment because of his inner eyelid. And he will be here to discuss the Season 1 recap next week.
I'm so excited, and I'm so thankful that you guys did an amazing job hosting this show. Like, I don't have to do this. It's so great. I could just, give it over to you guys, so thank you. I sound like Throw Mama from the Train. Not really. I could do that when I'm well. But I look forward to next week's season discussion. Can you guys go out on promoting what you got to promote and tell everyone where they can find you, and then I'll end the stream. Thank you very much.
Sure.
You can go first, Robbie.
You can find me at Earl Grey Trekkie. Me, Favre, and Starfleet Boy are doing Doctor Who discussions on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. GMT.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Mine's primarily the Lego builds. I've just recently put a new one out for the USS Stargazer. That's this week, and hopefully, when the Starfleet Boy feels better as well, we will. Hopefully, I will be starting my new podcast. So the Trek Cat Chat. So he is pending to be my first guest on that one. PJ?
I have nothing going on currently. I'm waiting for Starfleet Boy to get better so we can do a watch-along commentary for Coming to America, the new movie starring Eddie Murphy, which is I love. And the Trek side, nothing, because there's nothing happening. I do want to say that we did have a conversation on Text Trek about what the new movie might be, speculating about that. We also talked about the Voyager documentary. Yeah, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll
okay.
just if you're done, I'll just build on top of that. Yeah,
go ahead.
We released some content yesterday on YouTube. It'll be available either late tomorrow night or early Monday morning for a podcast over with Text Trek, discussing some of the recent news there with Kalinda Vasquez being hired to write a new Star Trek movie. Also, we talked about the Voyager crowdfunding and talked about the upgrade from CBS All Access to Paramount Plus that some people were disappointed with. In other news, I'll be back probably Friday on Text Trek with hopefully with the guest Jesse Gender, a big popular Star Trek YouTuber, and that'll be available as a podcast. Well, you can keep up with my stuff by following me on Twitter at TXTrek or over on Facebook at facebook.com/text-trek or go to text-trek.com.
Cool. Thank you all for joining us. It's been fun.
Yes, Starfleet Boy, if you'll take us out and live long.